Welcome to AngularJS tutorials, directives ngModel. What is ngModel? ngModel is Angular's built-in directive which will bind the values of HTML controls to scope properties, and it will bind scope properties values to HTML controls also. In our jQuery and JavaScript, if we want to read or assign values to HTML controls or from HTML controls, we need to use a control ID or some selector ID or a class or a tag name like that. We need to use that selector, then we need to call dot value on top of that in AngularJS in jQuery. But in case of AngularJS, we just need to bind a JavaScript variable or a property to HTML control with this ngModel attribute. Let's see how can we do that. This is my input box, text, then value is empty. This is my input text box. This is my text box. Now I want to access this text box value. First thing is I just need to create a variable scope dot message. It's empty. Initially it's empty. I want to use this ngModel. I'm simply saying that ngModel equal to message or JavaScript variable, scope variable. Okay, you already know this input tag with the text to type. Then this is the name of this control. Let's remove this also so that we are clear. So let's refresh this. Yeah, now we are able to access that value. Let me print that value. If you want to print any scope variable or models, we can use the interpolation statement. Yeah, now refresh browser, then type here. See that it's automatically getting the value from text box. So using ngModel, we can retrieve the values of HTML controls. Using ngModel, we can bind the values to HTML controls also. So let's look at that. I want to bind some default value. Hi, sorry, welcome is my default value. So this text box by default will have that message here. See that text box is having welcome as a default value. So we can use ngModel to bind values to HTML controls to access values from HTML controls, both ways. Okay. Yeah. If I want to change this, I can. So whatever I am changing here, I'm able to get that value using my ngModel attribute. Okay. Yep. We can directly bind the values of HTML controls to scope variables. We already saw that. Then third point, ngModel will try to bind to the property on the current scope if the property doesn't already exist on this scope. ngModel will try to bind to the property on the current scope. We already saw that ngModel will try to bind the value to a variable or property on the current scope. That's what we saw. If the property doesn't already exist on the scope, in our case property is there. In our case property is there. Here these guys are saying that if the property doesn't already exist on the scope, it will be created implicitly and added to the scope. So AngularJS will automatically create that. If we remove this, not a problem. AngularJS will internally creates this and adds to the scope. In this case also it will work. If there is no property in the scope, AngularJS implicitly creates that and assigns to our scope. Okay, that's the third point. Then ngModel example. When we type a color name in the text box, div color should be changed to that color, like this. If I type red in the text box, the div color should be red. If I type blue in the text box, the div color should be blue color. Let's do this example using ngModel attribute. Let me remove this. I already have this. I want to name this as div color. That's my model name right now. I want to display some div and sorry, change my color. This is our div. Then style width equal to 100 pixels. I'm setting height and width. Height equal to 100 pixels. Then I want to set style, sorry, background color. Background color is my angular value. Background color is my angular value. Whatever I type here, I would use here. Okay, see that. This is my div. I just setting width, height, and background color. And background color is dynamically assigning using angular interpolation statement and ngModel. Yeah, look at the example execution. I will type red, green, ORANGE, orange. So whatever the color we are typing in this text box is dynamically pulling here. AngularJS is dynamically getting this value and assigning here. Okay, that's what happening. So this is how we can use ngModel to build dynamic applications. Yeah. Thank you for watching.